Today on Histopedia, we're diving into the Articles of Confederation, America's first constitution, and a critical chapter in the nation's early history. This document was drafted by the Second Continental Congress in 1777 and ratified by all 13 states in 1781, serving as the United States' foundational framework of governance during the Revolutionary War and the first years of independence. By 1776, the colonies declared independence, but the Revolutionary War highlighted the need for a unified approach. During the war, the Continental Congress served as an informal central authority, managing military efforts under George Washington and negotiating critical alliances such as the 1778 Treaty of Alliance with France. However, without a formal governing structure, the Congress depended on voluntary cooperation from the states, which often proved inconsistent. The Articles of Confederation were drafted to address this lack of structure, providing a loose framework for uniting the states while respecting their autonomy. The political philosophy of the time heavily influenced the structure and spirit of the Articles of Confederation. Shaped by the Enlightenment and the bitter experience of British overreach, Americans associated centralized power with tyranny, believing true liberty could only be safeguarded by keeping governance as local as possible. To them, the states were the most reliable guardians of freedom, closer to the people and more attuned to their specific needs. The preference for state-centered governance reflected the colonists' deep distrust of centralized authority, born out of their experience with Britain's authoritarian policies, such as the Stamp Act and the Intolerable Acts. They feared that even a well-meaning national government could become another distant, oppressive regime if it amassed too much power. This fear motivated the architects of the Articles to avoid creating any form of strong central authority. So, what did this framework look like? The Articles of Confederation established a unicameral legislature, the Confederation Congress, as the central governing body of the new United States. According to Article 5, each state, regardless of size or population, had one vote, ensuring equal representation in Congress, but sparking tensions. Larger states like Virginia, with substantial populations, often felt underrepresented, while smaller states like Delaware disproportionately benefited, creating friction over whose interests should dominate national policies. This structure, while embodying the democratic ideal of equal state representation, proved problematic when it came to addressing the diverse needs of states with differing populations and economic interests. Congress was granted limited powers, as outlined in Article 9, which made it clear that the central government could not wield significant authority over the states. It could negotiate treaties, declare war, manage foreign relations, oversee interactions with native tribes, arbitrate interstate disputes, and operate currency and postal systems. However, the Articles severely restricted Congress's power to take action on key national issues. It lacked the ability to levy taxes or regulate interstate or international trade, leaving it dependent on voluntary state contributions for funding and implementation. This financial weakness made it nearly impossible to address national debts effectively, leading to financial instability. The Articles also impose significant decision-making challenges. For example, Article 9 required that declaring war or signing treaties required the approval of at least 9 states out of 13. This high threshold for action made it difficult for Congress to respond quickly or decisively to international crises or internal issues. Even more problematic was the requirement for unanimous consent for amendments to the Articles, as stipulated in Article 3. This nearly unattainable standard made reform virtually impossible, stifling any efforts to strengthen or improve the system. While the Articles prioritized state sovereignty and equality, these limitations hindered Congress's ability to respond to national challenges such as interstate trade disputes, foreign policy failures, and domestic unrest. These structural strengthening of the Articles ultimately led to calls for a more powerful central government, which culminated in the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. Despite their shortcomings, the Articles of Confederation had both notable successes and significant failures. First, they provided a framework for uniting the states during the Revolutionary War. Under the Articles, Congress coordinated military efforts, including George Washington's leadership of the Continental Army, and secured critical foreign alliances. The Treaty of Paris in 1783, which ended the war, was negotiated under the Articles, recognizing American independence and establishing favorable borders. Second, the Articles laid the groundwork for managing Western expansion. The Land Ordinance of 1785 created a standardized system for surveying and selling Western lands, promoting orderly settlement and funding public education. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787, another significant achievement, established a process for admitting new states into the Union, guaranteed civil liberties, and prohibited slavery in the Northwest Territory. Third, the Articles symbolized a step toward national unity. By providing a collective framework for governance, they helped shape a distinct American identity, even if they couldn't fully address the needs of a growing nation. However, the Articles' weaknesses became glaringly apparent after the war. Congress's lack of enforcement power undermined its authority. It could request troops and funds from states, but had no way to compel compliance, leading to chronic underfunding and military shortfalls. The financial instability under the Articles of Confederation was a major issue that severely weakened the nation's economy. Since Congress lacked the power to tax, it was forced to rely on voluntary state contributions to fund its operations. However, many states were unwilling or unable to meet these demands, leaving the central government chronically underfunded. This financial instability resulted in the inability to pay off war debts, leaving creditors unpaid and soldiers without compensation. By 1783, the United States owed an estimated $11 million to foreign countries, primarily France, the Netherlands, and Spain. The inability to honor these debts undermined America's credibility on the international stage, making it much more difficult to secure credit. This led to the government and individual states issuing unbacked paper currency, which was initially used to finance military expenses during the Revolutionary War. After the war, the currency continued to be printed to cover general government expenses, as the U.S. struggled to generate sufficient revenue. The lack of a stable financial system devalued the dollar, causing inflation and further damaging the country's economic stability. Interstate rivalries also contributed to economic instability. States imposed tariffs and other trade restrictions on each other's goods, creating friction and hindering economic cooperation. These trade barriers harmed interstate commerce and stymied the development of a unified national economy. On the international front, the Articles proved ineffective in protecting American interests. Britain, in violation of the Treaty of Paris 1783, retained forts in the Northwest Territory and refused to vacate them, undermining American territorial claims. Meanwhile, Spain closed the Mississippi River to American trade, effectively cutting off a vital trade route for Western settlers. Congress, lacking the power to enforce treaties or negotiate effectively with foreign nations, struggled to respond to these challenges, further eroding its legitimacy on the world stage. European powers, particularly Britain and Spain, remained skeptical of the United States' ability to maintain its sovereignty, and many questioned whether the new nation would survive in the face of such failures. Domestic unrest added to the crisis. Economic hardship sparked uprisings like Shays' Rebellion in 1786-87, where farmers in Massachusetts, burdened by taxes, debt, and inflation, revolted against the state government. Ultimately, the Articles of Confederation were a bold and innovative attempt to create a government that balanced unity with autonomy. Paved the way for the Constitution and the enduring system of federalism that defines American democracy today. So what do you think? Was it the political leadership during the war that created these issues, or was it the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation that left the central government powerless, ultimately leading to their end? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into history with Histopedia. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.